Hello and welcome to Our Time. Thank you for joining us.
Hello. Not happy, Janice.
Not happy, Jan?
No, not happy, Jan, at all.
Okay.
You know, we often talk about things that are irritating, and to me it's a thorn in my side, right? And I'm sure you've had this situation happen to you, like having a thorn in your side.
Right.
Well, I bought a nice big box of washing powder, very carefully tried to tear open the top.
Yes.
Halfway through, as usual, the cardboard falls apart and doesn't tear the lid open. So you put your finger in and you get...
Cuts.
Cuts, yes. Then I opened the box to discover that it's only got half a box full of washing powder. Now,
Malcolm.
what do you do?
Well, not a lot.
And I'm sure there are things like that that annoy you. And at the end of this program, we'll give you our Facebook page, and we'd love you to communicate your pet hates as a thorn in your side. But I'm thrilled. Now I'm thrilled. I've got that off my
Over
chest.
that now
I'm
we'll
thrilled.
move on.
Because we have an Australian icon as our very first guest on Our Time. This time
Is Mr. Ted Egan. Thank you for coming and talking to us today.
Thank you, Janice. Thank you, Malcolm.
a pleasure to see you, Ted, because you've had the most amazing life. And saying you're an Australian icon is the truth.
I've had about 7 lives. I'm on my 8th now.
Can we talk about your very first one then?
I was born in Melbourne, and my mother was close by at the time. And
Handy.
And had a very fortunate childhood, loving parents and family. We were very poor, but we knew hundreds of songs, so that helped. And,
Yeah.
Was it round the piano?
yes, my 3 sisters could play the piano, and we used to watch the wireless, and we'd hear the hit parade.
Yes.
If my mother liked a song, she would say, "Go and play that, girls," and they could go straight
Pick it up.
play by ear.
Wow.
And if she liked it, then she'd say, "Put it on the repertoire, girls." And they were all typists, and whenever we had a party, which was every second night, we had I had my set list, and I went to Darwin when I was 16, and I used to sing all the old American things like Mule Train and High Noon and Cool Water, and then I found myself surrounded by all these larger-than-life characters and situations, and I began to write my own songs. So here I am talking to you.
So did you play guitar too, or was it piano for you as well?
No, I didn't play anything. My dad played the squeeze box,
Yep.
and I'm a finger tapper, and I can't play any set musical instrument, but I've got a good sense of timing and a good ear, and I can sing without guitars.
Yes.
And I developed the using the beer carton as my musical instrument, and it's one thing. It's a good tapping in to keep me in rhythm, and it's a defence against bad guitar players. And
Does it need to be
the world is full of bad guitar players who say, "I'll play for you," and they say, "Please don't."
Does it need to be a full box of beer?
It
or
is at the
an
start,
empty
Malcolm.
box?
Yes, yeah.
At the start.
The tuning.
That's the start of
the tuning process is to tune
goes
the
on,
instrument.
Okay, goes on through the evening. But you became a school teacher, didn't you?
A long way down the line, I did. I was working out in the bush. I worked for what used to be called the Department of Native Affairs in the Northern Territory, and after about 12 years, I was promoted into town, and I'd been out, shooting crocs and running cattle with Aboriginal groups, and it was all so exciting. And then I'm promoted into town, and I hated it.
Oh,
And I said to some of my mates, I said, "How do I get back out bush?" And one of them said, "You've always been pretty critical of school teachers." They said, "Why don't you?" Because I was just about through a university degree, and so I did a quick spell with the teachers' college, and I had a teaching career only a couple of years, and then I went back to the bush in another capacity, which was great. So,
Do you think, though, that as Australians we've lost what you have?
I wish everyone could have had the experiences I have had, because here was I, the young from Melbourne, who thought he knew everything, and I was among Aboriginal people and naked people in the bush who could live off the land totally. And
Were you naked too?
no, I
We're always discreet.
I shared a few. I had a bloke who worked with me, and we used to often share. We'd get one sore foot, and so we had just the one pair of boots. So he'd wear one and I'd wear one, that sort of thing. But I was so lucky. I was out in the bush and learning all the time, and they were always happy to teach me. And I got
They being the Aboriginal.
yeah, and the life was full of laughter, and you don't get quite as much laughter nowadays. And,
Well, you just made an interesting point about standing around the piano and singing, because that's been totally lost, hasn't it?
I think it has.
Everyone's got their earphones, their iPods and their whatever's on. Nobody's sort of sharing, apart from the kids who sit together and you take this
Jam.
one and I'll take that one.
Oh, I think, well, unless they are
You know.
musicians, then they do.
No, I mean with the
Oh,
iPod.
yeah, with the
and
iPod,
with
yeah.
the,
No, that's true.
one gets the bass and one gets the treble.
Our extended family, the problem is not starting them singing, it's stopping them from singing. And we invariably get together for family reunions of whatever type, and we're bound to sing. It's a bit like Neris, my wife, she's Welsh, and you go to meet her rallies and they say, this is Jenna, she's a soprano. This is Malcolm, he's a baritone. So you know who to sit with.
Yes,
And my family, we just love singing. And it's,
we're not really here to get to your opinions on life generally, but do you think as Australians we have lost that from that mateship feel from our society?
Yes, it's a real paradox, isn't it? We, with all the new inventions and people are constantly saying, I'm bored, and with no games or anything other than household skills, I was never bored as a kid, and I'm never bored
actually.
now because I have all the new devices. I've got a little computer and I've got a mobile phone, but I have them on my terms, and they don't rule my life.
You still live a life.
Oh, I'm
Not
living the
living your
seventh one,
life
Malcolm.
on it.
Yeah, you've got a long way to go. A young fellow like you.
I'm not that far behind you. However, the TV shows that you've done in your lifetime have been fascinating too, because they've recreated that part of Australian life.
I always, everything I've ever done, I've marvelled at being paid for it or making money out of it. I've just done a session in the Adelaide Fringe Festival here, and I just marvel at that people come along and pay money to hear me sing songs, because I get every night's first night. Every concert's the first one I've ever done.
But it's me and my mates you're working with.
Well, me and my mates,
You and your mates, well, they're favourites of ours because they've been on the program quite a few
they're
times.
wonderful blokes.
They are, aren't they?
And people, because they're old-fashioned and they're true values, and that's what people are looking for.
That's what it is. It's true value, isn't it?
Yep.
We were brought up to value things. We value things like sharing your boots, for example, to value having boots.
And importantly, looking for the good in others rather than seek to find the weaknesses or the stress points, because we're a pretty unsatisfactory species, we humans, and I think we've constantly got to be applauding for people, not to the point of saying, oh, aren't you wonderful, but if you think it's a genuine effort, recognise it. And we had, when I was a kid, we had all these old people who would come along to our parties, and they had their set piece. And the night wasn't over unless Gert Norris sang Banks of the Wabash. And if Papa Sheehan didn't tell his story, he said, Papa, you haven't told your story about the apple pie. And, oh, I better tell you that one.
I suppose that's like watching repeats on television in a funny sort of way. I guess it's been replaced with that, hasn't it?
Well, I love the good stuff. We've got certain films in our life that we watch over and over. And I always find some new things to take from it because of the quality article that you started with.
So what do you want to be when you grow up?
That's
Your wife's laughing over there.
yes. I better
Better be careful what you say.
no, I've always got 3 or 4 big projects on, and I'm a lateral thinker, and so I'm never bored. I'm usually up quite early in the morning and go to bed 10 o'clock most nights, but very happy to have the late night if there's some meaning to it. And I've got a couple of musicals that I've been working on for 20, 30 years, and my granddaughter, who's a real goer, she says she's going to get these onto the stage somewhere, and that'd be a nice. You know, I've done a lot of university work and I've done a lot of TV work and concert with 30 albums of songs, but it would be nice to bow out with those couple of musicals.
Have you done a book too? Was it
10 books.
Yes, no, like, I did read there was something.
Not just one.
1, 10.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah.
So
Talk about those first, Hick.
Yeah.
Tell us about your books.
Although,
Why, when, how, and who?
well, I'm fascinated by what I call the real Australian people
Anzac.
who make, you know, well, the Anzacs, and I was started on my Anzacs research 30 years ago because my mum, or more than, my mum had 3 Anzac brothers in World War I. And she sat me down one day and told me her story and her attitude to war. And so that started me off in researching Anzacs. And it was a mate of mine who said, why don't you try to do a history of Australia via your songs? And I'm in the process now of putting together 100, I've got 100 songs listed that I have already recorded, and they're going to be presented as the Faces of Australia. And this
Old
week,
songs? Are these old
they're
songs?
songs that I have recorded already.
But
they're all done.
you wrote, or they're old songs? Old
No, they're
Australian
my own
songs? Your own
songs.
songs?
Yeah,
Oh, fantastic.
all my own.
Fantastic.
And so this week we think about Granny Lumloy, an old Chinese lady in Darwin, but she's part of Australia. Next week it's Edna Ziegenbein, the Boss Drover from Western Queensland, but she's part of Australia. And then it's the wonderful Wallabies, the football team, they're part of Australia. And that's always fascinated me, and it always will, because I have no control over the people I meet. And I can see a song coming around you, Malcolm. You know, you're pretty obvious.
Well, hang on, just hold that thought, because we've actually run out of time. But hang on, I want to know more about this.
Invite me back again, please.
I'm going to.
And I'll do the song.
I'm going to do this right this minute, invite you back again. Ted, would you come back to our time?
Yeah, I could do a song. Malcolm and Janice are rippers.
I'm glad you said rippers.
Oh, what a couple they are.
Listen, we're going to hear more of this, but you aren't, Sally, because we've got to take a break, and we'll be back. We're finding out about bike riding next.
Yes, we are.
So do join us. Stay with us on Our Time. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Ted. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you so much. I didn't go anywhere, really.
But later on in the show, we have Livette Williams with the recent Fringe Illuminate on North Terrace in Adelaide.
Yes, and we met Livette a few programs ago.
Yes, we did.
And new reporter on the program. But now we have something and someone very special, someone I've been waiting to have on the show for a long time, Kim Baker. Welcome, Kim.
Thanks, Malcolm.
Kim, you're really an advertising executive.
Well, executive is a little bit of a far...
You can be whoever you want to be. It's your company.
I own an advertising agency in
Yes.
Adelaide, and we were recently put in the top 100 companies in South Australia, so...
Fantastic.
I forgot to tell you that.
Yes, well, there you go. But to relieve the stress and pressure of the daytime, you ride a bike.
I'm a humble bike rider. I don't sort of aspire to be, greatness, but I've been riding push bikes for over 35 years, and I just love cycling.
So you started when you were 4?
About then, yeah. Just after my 5th birthday, actually.
Right, got it for your 5th birthday, right. But why bikes?
It's a great stress relief. I just really love cycling. When I grew up and went to school, I actually rode bikes to and from school, and some days that would have been 12 kilometres. So,
Really?
And I just loved cycling after that. And my father was actually a track cyclist, and he was a schoolboy champion, was in the Australian team, and he was, had a love of cycling, obviously, for that reason. And I took on after that.
Must have rubbed off.
It did rub
It's
off.
in your genes, darling. Not those genes,
No,
but genes.
very different ones. Lycra jeans. Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons it was worth talking to you about this is because whilst you are a competitor, is a competitor a fair
No,
point to make?
competitor's not right. It's social. It's very social.
but it's social, but you sort of compete with yourself, don't you?
I do in some ways, and
You're
we
always looking for the
compete
PB of life?
Yeah, well, it's really, in later years, it's just getting on a bike and enjoying it. But in the earlier part of it, it was taking up challenges and doing things that it was out of your comfort zone, so you tried to do things.
But
that
it's
were,
not that long ago you were trying to... We've got a great photograph of you here in the snowfields, and I'm quite sure it isn't in Australia.
No, and I wasn't skiing, I don't think, at the point.
No.
No, that's...
Yeah, I was expecting you to arrive in Lycra today, and look we finally got the Lycra.
That was my skinnier past, but I...
How long ago was that, Kim?
that was 5
years ago.
Right.
And that's the Stelvio Pass in...
Haven't they ever heard of a straight road?
It's, I think the guys from Top Gear named it the most drivable road in Europe, and it's the second highest paved road in Europe. It's the Stelvio Pass. It's
Did you ride up that?
2760 metres, and at the top is snow.
And you call yourself and the group that you socially ride with, the Fat Boys?
Well, we used to be the Fast Boys, but we crossed the S out in the Fast, and we're now just Fat Boys.
But you've been with that group for a long time. You were one of the original members. So how many started off as the Fat Boys?
The Fat Boys had their 20th year anniversary last year, so
But
I've been riding with them pretty well most of that time.
But it was only a small group when you started.
It was basically a whole lot of dads from school, primary school, that decided they were going to ride up and down the linear track, and they're on mountain bikes and wearing footy shorts and T-shirts and everything else. And they got more competitive, and then they started wearing Lycra and getting racing bikes, and then all of a sudden we said we need to get a uniform, and we called ourselves the Fat Boys. And now there's 115 Fat Boys in the group. I think it's the biggest recreational cycling club in South Australia, and they're great, competitive and social group. The social activities far outweigh the riding abilities.
But that tour that you did in Italy, it was with the Fat Boys, and they tend to do it every couple of years, don't they?
They do an
organised ride somewhere.
Yeah, they do an international trip every 2 years, and they do an Australian trip every 2 years.
So Kim rode from Melbourne to Adelaide one year over a number of days.
7 days. It was 1,100 kilometres.
Did you often ride from Adelaide up to Mount Loftig, don't you?
That's just a normal part of your training. But I haven't been training, as you can see, for a few months now.
I can't see that at all, Kim.
But I had an accident 2 years ago, which is sort of curtailed.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because but seriously, that's one of the, I know why you're smiling, but that's one of the reasons that we had you on the program, because with all the new bike lanes and the awareness of cyclists on the road, and Adelaide, as I'm sure other cities around Australia, are becoming more conscious of having bike lanes and bike riders within the city.
That's
people
right.
and encouraging people to ride to work. Is that working? Is that a practical way of really
absolutely
commuting? That's
it is. It is. South Australia's cycling central, so it's very much geared for cycling. You've got the flat, you've got the coast, you've got the hills, and you've got lots of country beyond in the near reach, of the city. So it really is, and the roads are brilliant. We've got great roads for cycling. But one of the biggest problems is danger of cycling. And I've got to say, most of the cycling accidents in our group have not been due to other vehicles. They've been due to self-infliction, and basically falling off a bike and
which Kim did.
Which I fell off, and I didn't hit a vehicle or anything. So.
Did you hit a hole in one of these fabulous roads you were just talking about?
I went around a corner a little bit too fast. It was wet, and I flipped the bike at about 35 kilometres an hour and had 16 fractures, 10 broken ribs, and broke my shoulder in 5 places, my collarbone, and it was a.
He messed himself up pretty bad, though.
It was a nasty experience.
So you were just lucky too, weren't you, on that particular morning?
Well, yes, I was lucky that a friend happened to be an anaesthetist who was riding the other way, saw me, got me mobilised and into an ambulance, and said, I think he's broken his collarbone.
That's what he said. He came up to me and he said, "Oh, don't rush, Janice, but I think he's just broken a collarbone." Oh, no, just a bit more than that.
You've just given it all away.
Well, I did, didn't I?
This is
my better half.
We have met, haven't we?
We have. It's my first husband.
Yes.
My current wife. Yes.
Okay,
and I'm jealous
because
Janice and I have worked together so many times and been married in so many shows. I've actually married Janice more than he has. He's only done it once. Our marriage only lasted 2 hours at a time.
Not very long at all.
But Kim, your advice would be, and you've got 3 big sons just like you, tall sons like you. Did you encourage them to take this up?
One of them's cycling. The other 2 don't seem to be that interested. But going back to those laws, I mean, since those laws have been in place, I've noticed that the attitude of motorists in particular on the road has softened up a bit, and they are giving you way. I mean, previous experiences are that cars would drive very close to you and near misses. But I'm noticing very clearly now that motorists are giving you that 1 metre, and if it's on an open road, it's 1.5 metres berth to a cyclist, which is fantastic. And
so is the public education campaign working?
Absolutely. And those that oppose it, I'm really horrified at, because I see that these laws are only good for cyclists.
Well, I drive a smart car, which isn't much bigger than a bike, let's face it. And sometimes I feel a bit squashed, to be honest, yes. But you both drive a car and obviously ride a bike. So when the shoe's on the other foot, are you really conscious of that as well?
Very much so, very much so.
So your advice to motorists particularly would be?
Slow down. If you see a cyclist and there isn't enough room to go through, don't try and squeeze through. Just back off. There will be room eventually. You know, another 1 or 2 seconds in your life is not going to change things greatly, but it could change the life of a cyclist if you're going too close.
And if you did, by accident, actually hurt somebody, it would change your life just as much.
Absolutely.
And from the point of view of a cyclist, what would be your advice to somebody who's thinking of taking up riding a bike?
It's a great team sport, great social sport. You meet so many different people. I mean, just in our group alone, you know, the social element of that and the people I've met over the years. And we have people in our group from barristers to magistrates to courier drivers to forklift drivers. And once you get them all in Lycra, they're all the same people.
Yes. I guess that's the same with almost every sport, isn't it? But even if you're riding alone, it's still a great stress relief, as you say, as you train alone, don't you?
It does.
Do you always... Yeah.
No, sometimes with, you know, pairs. I mean, whilst we've got 115 in our group, we don't all ride together. We ride in different groups, and there's people that are very good and there's people that aren't so good.
There's the fast boys and the slow boys.
Yeah. So you have this,
I get it.
this sort of competitive in-group sort of activity, but not. But I prefer to ride with 1 or 2 people.
With a group. Good advice. Thank you, Kim, very much. And we're going to be back in just a tick with Lavette.
We are.
With that fabulous, colourful story about North Terrace, the lights in North Terrace, from the recent Fringe here. Kim, great to have your company.
Thank you for
as well
coming
as
in.
wives on this program.
I'll see you at home.
Janice, it's with great pleasure that we introduce our new, I guess we'll call her reporter.
We've already introduced
Well,
her.
we have. So let's go and see what Lavette has prepared for us in North Terrace.
Hello, OurTime. Tonight I'm out here on North Terrace, Adelaide, South Australia, talking to people about the amazing illumination that's been happening as part of the Fringe Festival. But first, I would like to talk to the team behind these projections. So tell me about the amazing lights that's been happening.
Well, a lot of pre-production goes into it from our end, from technical and artistic. We have a nice group of artists in our disposal which we can use to create some of these brilliant pieces of art. And we've been given a brief this year. We've worked on the circus theme. So as you can see behind us, we've done a lot contributing with, you know, elephants, circus acts and that. And it's been a really fun ride to be along for.
So what do you guys like about the illuminations tonight?
They're very colourful and creative.
The different themes, so there's been a lot of like circus themes and the Aboriginal one as well, and yeah, they've been really nice.
What about you, Hannah?
Yeah, I think it's been really interesting, brings art into the city and in a place where everyone can view it. It's really amazing, and definitely the different cultures brings everyone together and stuff, so it's really good, yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to look at some of the different stories about what's going on in Adelaide and in South Australia, historical sort of stuff, you know, so I'm interested in history, so which is good, been great.
I love how it tells you a lot about South Australia and yeah, it just gives you a little bit of history into the Fringe Festival and the Adelaide Festival and just going back over the past few years of different artists that have come to the city and what they've brought to Adelaide. So that's what I really enjoyed about it.
So it's about the science and the art and the culture of this precinct, so it's really lovely.
The last time I was here, which was a few years ago, the illuminations were up and they weren't moving as much. They were mainly just the couple of colours on there that looked like old buildings, and they were very clever. But this year's been really good. They're all moving, they're telling stories. Along the other side there where the library is, they are doing lots of storybooks and stuff. So I've just been sitting there for the last 10-15 minutes watching all that, and it tells a story. It's very interesting and it's very pretty.
It's also the memory of, I suppose, a vibe. I suppose South Australia's opening up and people are opening up to the arts now and they're coming alive and there's more interest in it. It's not just an artistic interest from someone that wants to see performance or something that is purely creative based. It's very much a family orientated and everybody. It's for the people. And I suppose in a new era and a new age moving forward, it's really giving some stuff back to the people and just simple pleasures, simple enjoyment. I think that's what I'll take away from it.
Is there anything in the pipeline that we're going to be able to see this next year again?
If we're brought back, which I'm pretty certain we will be, we'll be doing it again and hopefully bigger, better and stronger. So
Thanks for that. Back to you, Malcolm and Janice.
Thank you, Lavette.
Weren't they good?
Yes. She's
Pretty
gorgeous.
moving pictures. You could do that on your house.
Well, could I?
Yeah,
I could.
You could. Not on mine. Mine's too small. We'd love to hear from you on Facebook, and you can check out who's on the show next time simply by logging on to this address. And maybe you'd like to leave us a message. So until next time on Our Time, we hope you can keep yourself nice till then.
Please take care and join us again next time on Our Time.
Bye.
Frankie, now Johnny stop one time, and me talk me like him you. All they savvy to palace stop good, all the promise long married through. Johnny man belong him, and me talk straight along him. Now, Frankie go down a long trade store, kiss him some palabuai. Store boy and me talk along Frankie, Johnny grease him Nelly Bly, Johnny man belong him.